Hi everyone, from me Jason and the Quid Verum team. It seems that gestures during Holy Mass seem to have developed a life of their own. Today on the Canon, we explore the gestures of the laity. For many contemporary Catholics, Vatican II was a catalyst for the Church to begin serious progress in its liturgical reforms. However, when pondering the words of C.S. Lewis in Mere Christianity, and please allow me to paraphrase, he writes that, if you are going down the wrong path, progress is made by the first person who, realizing this, turns back. We are not saying that in some instances liturgical reform wasn't necessary, but we need to keep reviewing and correcting our course in humility in order for progress to be made. We need to return to the place where we deviated from the true path. The liturgical reforms called for a renewed simplicity of the Mass. They did not call for a new Mass. When in doubt, we need to look at both the general instruction of the Roman Rite and the traditional practices. So what is it that we are supposed to do and not do? Let us look at a few gestures, starting at the top. Bowing of the head. A bow is a sign of reverence and honor. We should bow our head when the three divine persons of the Trinity are named, and at the names of Jesus, the Blessed Virgin, and the saint in whose honor Mass is being celebrated. We should also bow each time we make the sign of the cross. What about bowing of the body? A profound bow of the body is made to the altar in the creed at the words of the Incarnation. This rule excludes two specific feast days when we do not bow but genuflect. These are the feasts of the Incarnation, namely Christmas and the Annunciation. The faithful used to genuflect twice at every Mass in reverence of this great mystery. The Vatican II reforms attempted to elevate the reverence shown on the feasts of the Incarnation by changing all other days to bows. Unfortunately, the message seems to have got lost, and what we've been left with is that many Catholics have stopped bowing altogether. We need to regain this deeply important form of reverence. Striking the breast. We are called to strike the breast during the Confiteor. The words express our repentance verbally. Striking the breast shows our repentance physically. Romano Guardini, a German Catholic priest and author, shares his insights on the gesture too. He asks the question, what is the significance of striking the breast? Its entire meaning lies in its being rightly done. To brush one's clothes with the tip of one's fingers is not to strike the breast. We should beat upon our breast with our closed fists. In the old picture of Saint Jerome in the desert, he is kneeling on the ground and striking his breast with a stone. It's an honest blow, not an elegant gesture. To strike the breast is to beat against the gates of our inner world in order to shatter them. In the Roman Missal, that of Pius V, promulgated by the authority of the Council of Trent, a very specific rubric for this gesture is laid out. He strikes his breast 3 times, saying, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. The rubrics of the Roman Missal of Paul VI, as reformed by authority of Vatican Council II, however, are marked by their restraint with regards to gestures. We read in the reformed Roman Missal with the relevant rubric, they strike their breast. Therefore, regardless of traditional practice and in the interests of simplicity, the rule is 1 strike for the 3 mea culpas. Making the sign of the cross. It is not necessary for this to be done on a whim during Holy Mass, and seems to have cropped up without good reason. Almost all of us do it or have done it, and is not necessary. Making priestly gestures. Holding your hands out, up or with other people, is not an approved liturgical posture for laity in any rite of the church. People should not be imitating the postures or gestures of the priest during Mass. Please don't do it. Holding hands or using the orans posture. Many parishes have adopted one or both of these two postures during the Lord's Prayer. It, however, shouldn't be done. There is no posture given for us to adopt during the Our Father, and there is no traditional practice of any other posture. In the extraordinary form of the Mass, the congregation is silent for the entire prayer until the words "Sed libera nos al malo." Next time you're at Mass, pay careful attention to all those places where the priest prays on behalf of the people. It is at these times that the priest adopts the orans posture. Interestingly, the Lord's Prayer used to be prayed by the priest alone while using the orans posture. The use of the orans should therefore not be introduced into the Catholic Mass until an instruction has been given by the authority of the Church. Similarly, holding hands during the Our Father should not be introduced into the Catholic Mass, as it has no historical tradition in Catholic liturgy. We have learned through our own experience and in our discussions with many others that this is a practice that makes them uncomfortable, yet they comply so as to not be seen standing out and dividing the community. Only once the competent ecclesial authorities have given this the green light should it be an option. The sign of peace. Have you ever thought that the timing of the sign of peace is strange? It takes place shortly after the priest has finished consecrating the bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ. After having spent the last 10 minutes kneeling in adoration, witnessing a miracle, we then have to shake hands with our neighbor. This includes the guy who hasn't washed his hands since breakfast, kids who have been picking their noses, and all the dirt that people have collected from hymn books. When you think about it, it really isn't pleasant. We find it ironic that the part of the Mass where we exchange a sign of peace is the least peaceful part of all. It almost seems to disrupt the order of Mass. People are off their knees, shaking hands, saying hellos and giving hugs, often without even making eye contact. There are always those who make their way through the pews, like a host welcoming friends to his cocktail party. All the while, our Lord lies in the Blessed Sacrament exposed and waiting to give himself to us in Holy Communion. In the early church, the sign of peace was practiced, yet it typically took the form of a kiss. An osculatorium could be passed around, a beautiful carved board that everyone could put their lips to. Later on, this practice was limited to the clergy. When revived in the 20th century, Pope Benedict XVI was worried by how rowdy and emotional this practice could get, and gave thought to moving it before the presentations of gifts at the altar. The Vatican, however, has announced that it would stay in its present position, but that there would be suggestions made on how to moderate excesses. We need to remember that Mass is not a social function, that we are obliged to attend every week. Christ instructed us to keep the Sabbath holy, and the Mass is when we come together as a community to individually worship Christ, truly present in the Eucharist. The second we forget this is when we break the unity that we share. It is important to note that the sign of peace is optional, meaning we can each optionally choose whether we are going to do it or not. Likewise, Father can make the decision if the congregation will or will not do it as well. To end, regarding the use of bodily gestures within the Catholic Mass, there needs to be unity. The faithful become confused when one parish does one thing and another parish does something else. Unity is a natural output of the faithful doing and believing the same thing, the truths of the Catholic faith in all their forms. Therefore, no other person whatsoever, not even a priest, may add, remove, or change anything in the liturgy on their own authority. And remember, fight the good fight, and keep the faith.